What do manufacturing piston rings and baking a cake have in common? And how many times do you fail before you give up? Let's find out. Today we're talking about a dreamer, a man who chased his dreams and ignored conventional thinking. This man was Soichiro Honda, the man who built Honda into the world's largest motorcycle and seventh largest car company in the world. But it wasn't easy. Soichiro failed again and again. This is the story of why you should never give up on your dreams. Our story begins in the early 1900s, a small village near Hamamatsu, Japan. A young boy hears the roar of a motor car. It's something he has never heard or seen before. As it passes, he runs after it and never forgets the smell it leaves behind. The boy is Soichiro Honda. He is the son of Gihei Honda, a blacksmith, who runs a bicycle repair shop. His mother, Mika, is an accomplished weaver who designs her own looms to weave complex patterns. The young boy spends much of his time helping his father in his bicycle shop, kind of like the Wright brothers who invented the plane. He isn't interested in school and he doesn't do well. One time he decides to hide his bad grades from his parents. There's one problem. The report card must be stamped with the family name and returned to the teacher. He solves this problem by making his own stamp from a rubber bicycle pedal cover. It works well. But then he starts making stamps for his classmates too. But he doesn't realize the stamps need to be a mirror image. His family name is symmetrical when written vertically, but often other names are not. So he's discovered by the teacher. His father punishes him, not for making the stamp, but for making it incorrectly. Another time, Soichiro takes one of his father's bicycles and rides 12 miles to the Wachiyama military airfield to watch an aerobatic display. He does not have enough money for the entrance fee, but climbs a nearby tree to watch the plane. Soichiro is an independent thinker and somewhat of a rebel, so he becomes a bit of an outsider at school. But instead of trying to blend in, he embraces his nonconformity. He starts wearing bright colors like red and pink, when all the other boys wear gray or green. Later in the business world, he continues to wear colored shirts to prove the point that inventors have the courage to break away from convention. He doesn't believe in conventional learning. His dream is to make things that are original. This thinking will result in him building the most popular motorcycles in the world. But it will also make his life difficult. There will be much failure and hardship along the way. Now it's 1922 and Soichiro leaves school at 15 years old. He finds an apprenticeship at Art Shogai, an auto repair shop in Tokyo. In the beginning, he cleans, cooks, and babysits. After a year, he's allowed to use a spanner. When the Great Kanto earthquake strikes in 1923, the garage catches fire. Soichiro, who has never driven before, drives 3 cars out of the burning garage. Then he helps rebuild the garage. The company starts manufacturing racing cars. The first model is the Art Daimler, which has a Daimler engine. For the next car, they use a second-hand engine from an American Curtiss A1 biplane. Soichiro is just 17 when he joins the racing crew as a mechanic. The car wins the 5th Japan Motor Car Championship. It's now 1928. Soichiro has finished his apprenticeship and is awarded with the opportunity to manage the Art Shokai branch in Hamamatsu. Now, Soichiro has freedom to follow his dream of inventing things. His repair workshop does more than just repairs. He becomes known as the Edison of Hamamatsu. He makes an automobile stand himself so that workers do not need to crawl underneath the car. It's 1935. There are more than 30 people working at his branch. This includes his new wife, Sachi, who helps with meals and accounts. He is still racing, but has an accident during the opening race at Japan's first racetrack, the Tamagawa Speedway. He hits a car that's leaving the pits and is thrown clear, luckily uninjured. He takes part in another race later that year, but then gives up racing at the request of his wife and father. Sounds like my father. He hated me having a motorcycle. Motor racing dies out anyway during the war with China and the Second World War. He discovers He is colorblind, so it's not called up to be in the military. Maybe another reason the shirts are so loud. Soichiro decides he wants to make piston rings. Having been in the repair business, he knows how often there's a shortage of piston rings. He can't get anyone at the art shokai to support his venture, so he starts a new company, the Tokai Seiku Heavy Industry, and develops piston rings at night. Wonder what he does in the day. He works tirelessly and invests all his savings. He even pawns his wife's jewelry. I wonder what she thought about that. But he encounters many technical challenges. First, he has problems with the molds. Then he casts his first rings and they turn out hard and brittle like granite. Remember we talked about how manufacturing piston rings is a little like baking a cake. You have the ingredients, the flour, the eggs, the sugar, and milk. You mix them all together, but the cake flops. Then it flops again. It could be the order in which you mix them. It could be the temperature of the oven. It could be many things. Wouldn't it just be easier to look at a recipe? Maybe then you'd discover you're missing one small but vital ingredient, baking powder. Making piston rings isn't simple. They have to be done exactly right as they are critical to the engine's power. Let's take a closer look at what a piston ring does in order to understand why. Then we'll find out what ingredient Soichiro is missing. Piston rings are put under a lot of pressure, which is why they have to be strong. They're made from cast iron or steel. They're designed to seal the gap between the piston and the cylinder wall. If the gap is too small, the engine will seize when the things get hot and expand. On the other hand, a large gap means the piston won't seal properly. This will result in reduced engine power. The sliding motion of the rings also causes friction losses. So a good design compromises between minimizing friction while achieving a good seal. So back to the story. Soichiro's piston rings keep cracking and eventually so does he. He doesn't know enough about metallurgy. Just like the baking powder in the cake, the piston rings are lacking a vital ingredient. He needs to add silicone to his recipe. He realizes he needs more knowledge and enrolls in metallurgy class at the technological school at Hamamatsu. But once again, he's a poor student. He refuses to take notes or write exams. The principal of the school tells him he will not receive a diploma. But he's not interested in a diploma, only in getting knowledge. Diplomas don't do the work, he says. He's eventually expelled from the university, but gets himself a private tutor so he can chart his own course. Soichiro does things his own way on his own terms. He thinks out of the box long before the term becomes popular in the 1970s and 80s. Nowadays, people are encouraged to think out of the box as it's linked to company success. As we will see, it will play an important part in Honda's success. But back to the story. Soichiro is ready to begin mass production of the piston rings, and he joins Tokai Seiku as president. He has a large order from Toyota. He submits 50 rings for quality checking. Only 3 meet Toyota's rigid quality requirements. Again, he doesn't give up. Within 2 years, he employs more than 2,000 people. He is supplying both Toyota and the Nakajima aircraft. Now it's 1941, and the Pacific War begins. The Ministry of Munitions takes control of the company. Then Toyota takes over 40% of the company's equity, and Soichiro loses his position as president. Things are tough. His workers are leaving to join the military. He replaces them with inexperienced female workers. Soichiro calibrates the machines himself to keep them safe. He also devises a way of automating the production of the piston rings. Then Hamamatsu is completely destroyed in an air raid. The Yamashita plants are destroyed, and an earthquake destroys another plant. Soichiro buys an alcohol tank, which he installs in the yard, and spends the next year playing his shakuhachi, a type of flute, and koto, a harp, and treating his friends to homemade rice whiskey. He spends some time traveling around Japan on a motorcycle that managed to survive the war. So, if the story ended here, who could blame the guy? He tried so hard and had one bad break after another. But despite everything that happened, Soichiro didn't give up on his dreams. If he did, there would be no Honda Motor Company. There's a lot more to the Honda story, which we'll cover in future videos. So subscribe to our channel for more interesting car histories and tech videos. If you like this episode, please support us by sharing the video.